I'm 3D printing Dan an Ed Sheeran bust.
Why?
Aw,
That's such a waste.
it's nice. It's almost Valentine's Day, that's why.
It's coming up quick.
It's a big bust. It's going to take a few runs on the printer to finish.
And then he's got to spray paint the hair just the brightest orange.
Yep. And I'm going to add some very small LEDs inside so his hair glows orange.
Hell yeah.
It's like a lamp for next to your bed.
Yeah, exactly.
The Ed Sheeran lamp glows orange, pulsates when you need to wake up, and screams lyrics to songs you've never heard.
Excellent.
Songs you've never heard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Joe.
I'm Ken.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dan.
We're the Rewinders podcast, rewinding movies to see if they hold up. And this time, we got licked by our telephone while watching Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay. You're just going to start off with the worst part of the movie. And the worst part of any 80s movie, which is just, you want to have a bad person, they're going to be waggling their tongue.
They still do that in movies today. They go, "Bah."
Yep. And it's more so just annoying than character development.
They should just keep it in their mouth.
I guess it does the job of making me want to punch somebody in the face.
I don't know. It was more disturbing than anger-inducing for me. More of a, like, why? Why at all?
Wyatt Earp.
Yep.
Yep.
So who has a history with the movie Nightmare on Elm Street?
I mean, it was always on during Halloween, and that's really the only time I think I've ever watched the movie.
How young were you when you saw it?
Oh, God. Young, I would probably say beginning of high school.
Was it scary for you?
No.
So blunt.
I thought I watched this before, but it turns out that I continually mix up movie names, and I haven't watched this particular iteration of this movie. I've said in the past that I remember that Johnny Depp murdered really early in this movie, but it turns out Johnny Depp is in this movie, and I knew that. But it turns out, I think what I'm thinking of is the one at Camp Crystal Lake.
Friday the 13th.
Jason?
Friday the 13th, where Kevin Bacon gets stabbed super early in the movie. This one, yeah, Johnny Depp, but doesn't get murdered till late in the movie. And so apparently I have no history with this movie apart from watching sequels, which are basically the same movie.
Only significantly worse, like, all the time.
Eh.
I had seen bits and pieces of this movie. Like, I knew Johnny Depp gets blundered. I knew about, like, all the boiler room chases and things like that, but I guess I've never seen this movie before, and I thought that going in, and it was confirmed after viewing it that I had never seen the entire film before, and I've only seen like 1 to 2 small little pieces. So it's one of those movies that I always had on the back burner. I watch a lot of horror movies, and especially Halloween, I go nuts, but I never got around to watching this. And I know everyone around me loves this movie. Like, people I know have like shoes and statues and figures and shirts. I've seen people, out with t-shirts and sweaters and whatnot. The only exposure I really had to Freddy as a character was I did watch all of Freddy vs. Jason for some reason.
You poor soul.
In high school.
You poor soul.
I know.
Hell yeah. Freddy vs. Jason. I did watch that.
Yeah, and then my parents bought me a like airbrushed Freddy Krueger t-shirt from the mall when I was in high school or middle school, and I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know anything about the character.
Here's a t-shirt of your favorite character, Freddy Krueger. Mom, I saw like a movie once.
I like Halloween. This isn't Michael Myers, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's just one of those movies that I always wanted to watch, and I always felt embarrassed that I hadn't watched because it just feels like a movie I should have seen.
Now you can be embarrassed because you did watch it.
Exactly.
For me, I had 2 older sisters that were teenagers in the 80s, so they loved themselves some horror movies to get all scared on. So I believe I saw most of the 1980s horror movies, and then some stuff that's like worse, like the Faces of Death movies.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Well, they're not really movies.
No, they're not movies.
No.
That was like That was YouTube before YouTube, and it was uncensored.
Yeah, bad YouTube before YouTube.
I rented those from Family Video at too young of an age to know what I was getting into.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so I saw a lot of this stuff, but Nightmare on Elm Street was one of the first ones that I got like really spooked by because of the character Freddy. I don't know what it was. He was very spooky to me. Which, by the way, this is Spooktober still, even though this episode will be released in November. This is still Spooktober.
Within 24 hours of Halloween is fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was really scared of Freddy. I'd be like, put myself underneath a blanket when watching the movie because I'm getting scared and stuff like that. I see it much differently now. But the turning point for me as a child of not being afraid of Freddy anymore was my parents had cable and HBO, and one time just flipping through the channels with people, we stopped on HBO, and there was an interview with Robert Englund in his costume with 3/4 of his makeup done, not his face. And instantly I was like, oh, that's right, it's an actor. All right. And I never was afraid of it again. I was afraid of the movies, and then I wasn't. That's my history. And once my sisters left the house, I basically didn't watch any more of these. So when you say Jason versus Freddy, never saw it.
You're not missing out on anything. It's fine.
I disagree. That's a fun movie that if I remember right, from high school, which I said that about a lot of movies back in high school, so I don't necessarily trust my high school self with movies.
Well, to give any audience member who may have not seen Nightmare on Elm Street before, the quick synopsis of this film is, there's a dude in everyone's dreams, but not everyone's, all the few select teenagers' dreams, and I think we find out why later in another movie. But no, they don't say why he selected those kids, though.
Oh, it can be inferred, though.
Not really, because what's inferred is he murders kids. Like, when they say kids, I assume children.
I have a note about that.
Yeah, we won't dig too deep into that. But yeah, he wants to murder people in dreams, and when he murders them in dreams, they die in real life. And then the adults in the real world are like, what's going on? That greaser kid's killing people, until he ends up hanged in his own jail cell. And then a lot more murder. Blender murder.
Yeah.
Find out that the parents killed this dude because he was a child molester.
Murderer. He doesn't become a molester until...
He's never a molester.
Oh.
He was originally supposed to be.
It was originally supposed to be? Yeah, and then they're like, wait, this is Hollywood. We shouldn't be pulling attention to what might be happening here, so they changed it to murderer.
And then they just kept the tongue and licking. Just for ambiguity's sake? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, you find out the parents murdered this guy because the law didn't murder him for them. And now he's murdering kids in their sleep until this girl supposedly figures out how to pull him out of dreams to murder him in real life again.
Joe, you give me a great movie title, and I'm very happy now. I'm going to make a movie called Murdered by the Law.
It sounds like Years of Attribution. It's boring as hell.
Aww.
Unless you're talking about, like, RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop or Judge Dredd, yeah.
Murdered by the Law.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I'm back in.
Had me in the first half.
Or Chopping Mall. Those robots were like the law.
They were.
Chopping Mall. Yes.
There's some things to like about this movie. What did you guys like about Nightmare on Elm Street?
Johnny Depp getting blendered. That scene is fucking glorious.
That scene is great.
It's also
it is really
awful.
Good.
And I just swore. I am sorry. Oh, God.
It fits the oeuvre of the movie, so we're okay, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to not swear.
Are you on a no swearing diet, Dan? Because you always get really upset when you swear.
Yeah, but I feel bad.
It's okay, you're an adult.
There might be young people listening to our podcast.
Why would anybody young be listening to a movie where a gentleman gets pulled into a bed and blendered with a geyser of blood spraying against the ceiling?
Maybe because of that?
I guess. Like, what child stumbled into this podcast?
Clearly in that scene, they just, built the room upside down. And
yeah. But it's well done.
It was super well done. Looks great.
That room was not built upside down. That room rotated.
What?
Yeah, because at the end it was on the side.
What?
Yeah, on the end you could see the blood going down the side of the room versus going, like, straight across the ceiling. So the room did rotate. It was pretty cool. So did they just, like, confront... Oh, man, this is gonna drive me nuts. Oh, no.
The guy who did the thing, I know who you're talking about, designed sets and did the whole rotating room thing.
Are you talking about the guy and the drummer guy in that one band that rotates above the crowd?
That's Neil Peart.
No, I was wondering if they just talked to Lionel Richie after dancing on the ceiling and borrowed his room and redressed it. I don't know.
Lionel Richie, that makes the most sense.
Or in the movie Poltergeist, they did a rotating room to get them up on the ceiling,
Poltergeist?
too.
The movie's
That's
awful.
a bad movie.
No. I am still not happy that you made me watch that.
Terrible movie. I'm
Really
sorry.
awful. We're never doing that again.
Trauma films are not good films.
So how many times do you think they had to clean that room, all the blood out of that room? And how hard do you think that is? Or do you just, like, destroy the room and rebuild the whole thing?
If I remember correctly, that scene was filmed once.
It would have to be, because that's just so much.
It also uses 500 gallons of fake blood.
Hell yeah.
It's kind of like the elevator scene in The Shining. How do you refilm that if you fuck it up?
No, you don't.
Exactly. Okay, so for this film, there's a lot going on visually that I so enjoy. There's a lot of visual aspects to this film that I was very thoroughly engrossed in, and I think for me, probably the coolest thing in the entire film is when Nancy's asleep and Freddy's coming through the ceiling above her. That was cool as shit. That was one of the coolest effects I've seen in a long time.
That was an effect that gets used in later horror films.
Yeah, I can see the DNA from that. What is it? I don't think...
Frighteners used it.
I was going to say the Frighteners, yeah. I was going to say, isn't it right on the cover of the Frighteners?
Oh, I'm sure it's in a lot of covers. It's a very cool thing. It's a very neat way to do things.
It is.
And I'm sure you get it with, like, ghosts going through lace as well, stuff like that. Like, it's a good way to show invisible things.
Yeah, it's so well done. I mean, it's coming through and then just instantly vanishes, and it's back to just being, a wall. It's such a good effect.
I feel like that's what makes this movie is just the various effects. If I remember correctly, it was filmed, the wall is muslin.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
okay.
It's all front lit.
I didn't know if they actually physically did it or if it was a projection. Because it glowed a little bit, so I was like, oh, it could have been a projection.
You're a projection.
But we all are projections.
Supposedly, yeah.
This isn't The Matrix. This is Nightmare on Elm Street, which is really neat. I love the premise of you can't sleep.
Yes, the premise
Just
is great.
on the basis of it's a terrifying premise.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna sleep eventually.
You know what that's based on, right?
No?
So there was a influx of migrants from Laos.
Okay.
And in LA, a bunch of these migrants were all, like, not able to sleep. Like, they were having some kind of, like, insomnia, and it was killing people because they weren't sleeping.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and that's what Wes Craven based the film on. It was in the late 70s. Let me see if I can find an article for it.
Dan, I've got a killer horror movie idea. The concept is if you fart, you die.
Okay.
So it's like, it'd be like people like at work standing at urinals, and all of a sudden the guy will come in and just be like, hey Bob, hey Bill, and then all of a sudden you hear like a little toot, and he'll just slump over dead in the urinal. And the other guy's like, whoa, what happened? And then they start realizing that if you fart, you die.
I'm not going to last long in that world.
Inhale the fart in order to be affected by this? Like,
No. Like,
how is everyone just not dead already?
I don't know. It's part of the mystery.
The only people that will be left will be ladies, because ladies don't fart.
True.
Ah, yes.
I think the only way that we can get an explanation in this movie is if we have a set of headstrong parents that can explain why all of a sudden farts are killing people. And then, of course, they just blame everyone else. You're crazy. Your farts aren't killing you.
Back in the day, we made sure no one would fart again. We got rid of farts. What are you talking about? No one's farting. You can't physically fart anymore. We removed the farting gene. Oh God, somehow it mutated back in.
So it was Cambodia, not Laos.
Interesting. I would have assumed Laos, but yeah, okay. I'll have to read that later. That's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I like in the movie how things change constantly. And that's because they're in dreams, and dreams kind of just morph around. Yes. So not so much that Freddy's controlling the dream, but just that the dreams can do wacky things. Like, they introduce you to it right away when Freddy's arms are, like, 5 feet
All
long each,
Beetlejuicy.
and I just giggled my butt off. I was like, this is so stupid looking.
Wait.
But
What came first, Beetlejuice or Nightmare?
I believe Nightmare.
Oh, Nightmare. This was 84.
Right, and Beetlejuice was late 80s.
Beetlejuice is 88.
Yeah, 88.
It's really unfortunate that they put his stretchy arms at the start of the movie because it really sets you off to just laugh at him the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And like he's scraping the blades against the wall and one of the blades is just flopping all over the place.
Well, let's get the nitpicky stuff just yet. That's just
I know, but you
have the
brought up
stuff
the
that we
scene,
I thoroughly
and I was there.
I thoroughly second what you said, Ken. I love the premise of this film. The premise is rock solid. The premise is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I'll get to the stuff later.
Like, so ultimately, even if floppy Blade Krueger doesn't scare you just in appearance or tongue wiggling, the premise of you going to sleep and being harassed by this guy is enough to be just terrifying. Just the simple idea is just, it's straight out, like, even more terrifying than Jason because he just slowly walks after you with a machete. You get yourself a good head start. You can still get yourself a night's rest before he catches up to you.
Oh, for sure. Freddy and Michael Myers, they're more of the, you can run, but I'll pop up in front of you out of nowhere kind of guys. So they've got that going for them where they can just all of a sudden poof be in front of you. I don't know though. I think I'd rather be scared by Scary Terry every night when I go to bed. At least he makes a fun game out of it.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually kind of going to agree that Scary Terry is actually more scary than OG Freddy.
OG Freddy has like emphysema.
Yes.
You're making fun of a burn victim?
Like,
How dare you?
That makes sense.
How dare you?
You know, I'm okay with making fun of child murderers. I'll go out and say that.
There we go.
I mean, he was also a child murderer, so that's perfectly fine.
I really like Johnny Depp's acting in this. I could see where he finally got a start, and it was warranted. It was worth it. I thought he was really good in this movie.
Yeah.
He was kind of like a grounded pin.
I'm glad he didn't die right away.
Yeah, I was expecting him to die like in the first like 20 minutes or so, but I was happy that he didn't die till the endish.
It's because he disappears in the middle
Yeah.
and doesn't come back. They kind of forgot he was on set and was like, "Oh, that's right, we got Johnny here. Get back in there, kid."
Did you know Wes Craven wasn't going to hire him? Wes didn't like his audition, but Wes's daughter was like, "He's super dreamy. I really like him."
That's right. I remember reading that somewhere. Yeah. Well, he definitely had the acting chops in this movie. I felt like he was definitely the pin holding it all together in terms of performances. I really thought he was good in this.
It's not a very big pin.
No, but it's monumental compared to the rest of the pin.
I don't know.
I'll get to that later. But I have so much to say. But anyways,
I like that it had Evil Dead on TV. That made me happy.
I like that too. That made me super happy because I didn't know if that came before or after this movie. But then I saw Evil Dead 2 and Bruce Campbell and chainsaw sounds and everything. I was super stoked. I like it when horror movies pay homage to horror movies.
That also is like, don't put a better movie in your crappy movie.
Oh man, shots fired.
I'm not saying that
already.
this movie's crappy.
Shots fired already.
That's something popular in the 80s horror movies, is referencing other better horror movies.
That's true. There's horror movies where they like play, Night of the Living Dead in the movie and things like that. And
I don't know if I'd say this is better or worse than Evil Dead. Evil Dead was certainly a cult, but it was a little bit more disjointed than in this movie. This movie definitely had a
Flowing
better
plot.
this has better,
feel for plot,
much better
and
premise. Yeah,
moving forward.
absolutely. This movie, I think that's what frustrates me is the movie itself is good. The plot's good. The premise is good. The scenes are great. But I'll get into the stuff I don't like later. But it's just, I feel like for me personally, this could have been a big movie for me. I don't like the execution. And that might just be a Wes Craven thing, because I don't feel like I really just enjoy his movies all that much. I know Scream was probably the first introduction I had to Wes Craven, and it was good. It was shocking. Everybody got shocked at the beginning with Drew Barrymore, but it's just
Spoilers. We're not talking about this movie.
I know. It's just,
also, I haven't seen it.
Oh, gotcha. It's flipping the
know.
genre on its head and basically making fun of the stereotypes of what happens in the movies, and you can't do this because you'll die and blah 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 blah. So it's good on that aspect. It's just I don't know. I can't really say that I've had a lot of experience with Wes Craven films really kind of tripping my trigger in terms of horror, which feels like I'm just like laughing in the face of the horror genre, which I love so much, but I don't personally care for Wes Craven movies. And that makes me feel weird saying that out loud.
No, you don't have to feel weird.
It feels
about
really
that.
weird, man. It's like saying like I don't know. It's like somebody who only watches action movies saying Michael Bay sucks, and everybody being like, but it has all the things you like, explosions and guns and everything. It's just I don't know.
That's that's a really good way of saying what's being said. I can understand that, but there's all sorts of different triggers for everyone, and Wes Craven just might not trip that trigger. Like, Michael Bay might not be your kind of action. There's still other action types out there. You might be a John Woo guy. Couldn't finish that. I'm not sure there is a John Woo guy out there.
I mean, I'm looking through his filmography right now, and it's just like, there's really nothing here that I ever watched more than once, or that I ever had the desire to watch. So it's like going through Hills Have Eyes, Swamp Thing, Wishmaster. I know these are pretty big movies. Like, I know people who love Wishmaster. I love My Soul, or people who watch My Soul to Take, things like that. It's just, I don't really, looking at this list, none of these movies have I ever either seen or gone back to watch.
There's a bunch of movies on here that at least on the website that I'm looking at, that I've never seen, ever.
Same here, like The Girl in the Photographs, or
Parish,
Stranger in Our House.
What is it?
Chiller.
I guess it just shows you how cheap and quick it was to make some of these movies, that he has so many that you don't even know about.
Like Dracula 2000.
Everyone knows about that.
I say, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to undermine him at all. I'm glad he found an audience with Nightmare at Elm Street and with Scream. I'm glad people got enjoyment out of those films. I'm not trying to detract that at all. It's just, I don't know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I never watched The Hills Have Eyes. I've heard okay things. It's just, it kind of, to me, and I know this is going way out on a limb here, but it feels like, to me, like he was, from the outside, it feels like Rob Zombie before Rob Zombie. Like, Rob Zombie's got all these niche horror movies that, his devoted fans love, but not everybody gets them or cares about them. And it's stuff like, the Halloween remakes, it's the Hills Have Eyes remakes, it's all that stuff, Devil's Rejects and everything else. It's like, I don't personally care for those movies, but I know that they have a following. I know that they have a big following. So it kind of feels like the same thing, just like separated by a couple decades.
I feel like Rob Zombie movies are better comparatively, though. Better when compared to other horror films.
Yeah, it's all a matter of opinion. I don't know. Nightmare just never did anything for me. I mean, I even watched Friday the 13th, and I liked the original. And then after the original, then it became your typical, slow shambling monster, can't kill this guy movie. But the first one was great. I liked the first one a lot. But yeah, I don't know. This series and Friday never really kicked off for me.
I've never been a huge horror film fan to begin with. They just don't trip any triggers for me. So anybody who's just like, hey, let's watch a horror film, I'm like, yeah, could we not?
But there's so many good ones, especially now. But anyways, sorry. Things we still liked.
It's kind of a mixed bag at this point. So the end of the movie, I think I remember hearing somebody say that the producers forced Craven's hand to put make the end of the movie the way it is.
What, ambiguous?
It was supposed to be a happy ending. I did a bunch of research because I got bored watching the movie.
So it was supposed to be a happy ending. However, they bring Freddy's colors on the top of the car, and then all of a sudden the mother gets pulled through the tiny window, which is hilarious looking.
It was so, yeah.
A weird way to finish the end of the movie. However, it does bring up the point, like, did she ever wake up from the dream? Like, it's such a weird ending. Like, mom's awake, swears off alcohol at this point. Daughter's awake, notices mother's alive. Like, oh, hey, look, you're not dead. Great. Or you're feeling better, I think. She doesn't say you're not dead. But then, like, the kids come up, and it's like they never died. And it's just like a weird thing. Like, who knows what at this point? And then all of a sudden, Freddy comes back. Like, so somebody actually does remember Freddy.
Yeah, well, she demanded that he return everybody.
Or nobody actually died, and it was all just
right.
Nancy? Was that her? That's her name? I feel like that's right.
Nancy, yeah.
It was all in Nancy's head the entire time.
Right. It seems like it was the entire movie was then just made out to be a dream, which is a popular.
It starts to give Candyman.
80s, I think
it starts to give Candyman vibes. Like, is she just crazy, or is this actually happening?
So, like, I like the ending in as much as it kind of brings you into rewatchability.
Yeah,
you could go back and rewatch this movie, trying to see whether or not you believe this is entirely a dream, and you can look for little things that would support that, or you could just look at it being like, wow, that's a really weird way to end this movie, and I don't care for it, and just turn you off and run away. It's kind of a mixed bag. I liked it. It made me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Even though it's a horror film, I know it's not supposed to make you laugh, but
I laugh at a lot of things in this movie, but it's supposed to be scary.
Yeah, I don't know if this movie was supposed to make you ha-ha all over the place.
There is so much absurdity in this movie.
There is some catharsis to be able to laugh at when you've been scared the entire time. You're supposed to be scared. It's nice to have a laugh in there, that you can have some catharsis and let that out so you can make room for more scare. I wrote something down. I saw it and I wanted to say it. Oh, right. This movie. It has shitty kids traps.
Yes.
I was going to say, it turned into Home Alone.
I was giggling to myself at that point too. It's like, oh shit, this is Home Alone all of a sudden out of nowhere. They reference a book once, and the next thing you know, it's like the night before, and Kevin's hanging up sledgehammers against the door.
She's a fucking trap-setting master. She can set traps in 20 minutes and have a heart-to-heart with her mother.
She did read that book in less than 24 hours.
Right?
Yeah.
She was determined.
I mean, she wasn't sleeping. She was Jesse Spanoing those caffeine pills.
Yeah.
That, and she had coffee machines hidden under her bed.
Oh, that I got a chuckle out of. My first initial thought is like, bullshit, her mom didn't smell that, but then I realized she had half a carafe sitting on top of her TV, so no wonder.
Correct.
I did get a chuckle out of that.
Well, her mom probably couldn't smell anything anyway, because her mom was like hiding vodka bottles everywhere in the house. It was like a clown car for vodka bottles.
I mean, it does kind of bring into, question these are things that, like, alcoholism of parents and not believing of children and stuff like that. It's like, that is, it's a serious topic brought up into this movie, but eventually it kind of becomes funny at a certain point.
Well, and the mom kept his freaking glove in the furnace from like the 1800s.
She murdered a man. She needed her, what's the word I want to use? Trophy.
Jesus.
She needed her goddamn trophy, like Freddy has in his dream boiler room, which he had a trophy. He had the crucifix trophy before before he even claims Nancy. He's not a very good serial killer.
He's supposed to be a child murderer.
Unless he takes the trophy just to mark someone.
He murders children. They're not hard targets.
But these aren't, they are children, but they're older children, and they're not as easy of targets. I mean, look at them. They're running and stuff.
Yeah.
They're pretty athletic. Unlike small children, which are clumsy and not really athletic. Not that I'm parsing hairs about who's a softer target.
Sounds like you've had some experience here, Joe.
Well, if I'm chasing children to murder them...
Hypothetically. Air quotes.
Let me tell you about it.
I mean, Joe's got a pretty long gait, too. Like... I mean, imagine Joe chasing like a 5-year-old down an alleyway.
I am now. I'm picturing just the long, lanky arms and then legs flailing about all manically, and child just screaming with an ice cream cone. I don't know. I love this.
That'd be like Freddy in this movie. He runs like a complete weirdo. Like, he starts wiggling as he runs. And I'm like, is that supposed to be scary? Because it looks silly.
Have we crossed the dream threshold into the things we don't like now?
I'm just going to toss out that I like the character design of Freddy.
Okay, yeah, the character design of Freddy's great. Yeah.
I like his glove. I like his outfit.
There's a lot going into his design,
yes.
And they spend a lot of time going into why he looks the way he does in subsequent films.
It's pretty cool. I've seen at least one or two of the other ones, just like bits and pieces, but this is like the one that I hadn't seen the most of, I guess.
The one with red arms instead of striped arms?
Ooh.
Because he was originally supposed to have a vest.
His sweater was supposed to be red and yellow.
Sweater vest?
Not red and green. But red and green are more... They're so far opposite on the color wheel that it was more of a... I remember reading about this, why they picked the red and green over the red and yellow.
Christmas.
It had to do with color design and how the red and the green could be more off-putting because of how opposite they are.
But it's not like he's in bright light a lot anyway, at least in this movie.
Right. So like the red and green, the green was like, it might be green, it might be black half the movie, it might be brown. You can't really tell what that green is. The yellow would have been a little bit easier to see the difference in.
Then you'd be discussing if it was red and yellow or red and blue.
Ooh, it was probably red and blue. You don't know. On the same way, Freddy shambling around, chasing people is just to drum up the fear in people being chased, because he doesn't need to run after people. He can show up in front of people whenever he wants. He can teleport. Mm-hmm. That's his superpower. Like, the chasing is just to drum up fear, which apparently he feeds on or something. Like, is that where he gets his power? He just gets his power because he's in a dream?
Yeah, they kind of half-assed explained it.
Yeah, they don't really explain it in this movie.
Well, they did the people in Bhutan sleep depriving their nightmares of energy by ignoring it, kind of thing, blah blah blah. So it says if you get scared by your, they said without saying it, if you get scared by the dream, therefore you're feeding it.
I did notice in the boiler room chase scene that they had I can't remember her name, the first death. Tina does the thing where she's running but she's not going anywhere, and I caught that. I'm like, oh hey, look, they're doing the thing, and I don't know what the director, or was it the director? Well, either way, it looks really cool for like a split second, and then just gets weird because the actress like does the slow run too long. I don't know if you guys caught it. It was.
I did not.
No, I saw what you were talking about.
There's so many good things about this, so many little things about this movie that I like, but the movie as a whole, man,
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you.
I mean, I thought that, if we're just looking at it from the outside as a movie, yeah, it checks the basic boxes. They did it correctly. The movie doesn't dick around and, like, have tons of exposition. It just kind of just does it. So that's nice. And it doesn't, like, hang out too long. They kill people, sometimes a little bit too slow, but on a decent pace, and then finish. That part of the movie is fine. It's being an adult and watching this, it's not scary.
I don't know, even being a teenager, this movie never scared me. I've never been this movie does not frighten me. On the scale of horror films, the nightmare movies are up there with Scary Movie and that series.
I would agree.
Oh god. Rough.
I was scared of it when I was little. Like, I wasn't even probably in double-digit years yet. I was 5 when this came out.
So why do you reckon he had green blood?
It was supposed to be putrescent.
Reasons?
Oh,
yep.
Pus. Got it. Gross.
And maggots.
Ew.
He likes opening himself up for people, though.
He does. Chops off some fingers and they're back the very next scene. Like, once you know you're in a dream, you can do anything you want. And that's where, like, if you feed the fear, you're just going to be constantly feeding that fear. Once you realize you're in a dream and you shouldn't be feared, you can start doing things that you don't normally think of doing when you're all scared.
Careful.
And so you can start manipulating your dream.
Careful, you're treading on the third movie. Ken, we aren't talking about Dream Warriors.
Yeah, and then you can be a dream warrior, which is basically what she did at the end of this movie.
Except she pulled him out. At least she thought she did.
Right, but then she went back in.
You never go back into a burning building.
And yeah, who knows? I don't know. The problem is she killed him the same way the first time. She burned him alive. And then didn't see what happened to him.
Yeah, you gotta make sure they're dead.
Yeah.
You can't just leave them alone in a room. Bad form.
Surprised the house didn't burn down.
Yeah, that's a good fire retardant in that home.
But the sticky stairs.
Where you can obviously see the holes in the stairs.
Yeah, it's like, gross. That was probably the most disgusting part of the entire thing.
I get what they were trying to show, stepping into the stairs and the stairs getting goopy, grabbing the shoes and slowing her down, but not having CG to make it happen and trying to make it actual happen. That's hard, man. That's hard.
That's not an effect that you should be trying to do with practical effects.
I mean, someone probably could pull it off, but
not on shaggy carpet. It's so hard to keep that going. And, well, I suppose all you have to do is, I was an effects person, so I wouldn't know if it's easy to do or not. It just seems like the carpet would be a difficult time to make into a sticky mess. Either way.
People make everything into cakes these days. They can make something into carpet.
Most of my bad
and
dreams
cake.
involve having sticky feet, not being able to move, so that part actually struck me as at least it triggered something in the back of my brain. It was like, oh no, I could understand that being a fear in a dream, at least.
So at the very beginning of the movie, when Tina's getting chased, when she wakes up after being chased, and I realize that whole beginning part was a dream, I was struck with the fact, I was like, wait a minute. So in the dream, Freddy had to build his glove. Why? No one was there to be frightened by him building his glove. He could have just made it happen.
Right. I assumed that was in the real world.
See, I couldn't tell.
Which that build sequence actually really worked well for me. You got the cutting off of the fingers for some reason. I don't understand that apart from the fact that you're like, is he going to cut off his finger with that straight razor? Yep, that was the most scared I got. Yeah, I like to build things. So like, watching that, I was like, man, I could probably make some of these things, which is probably not a healthy thought, but I was just watching it like, hey, yeah, I could do that. There's a nice easy hinge there. I could do that. And then the knives on the fingers was interesting. I noticed that they had brazed the metal together instead of welding it because they're two different metal materials. And if you weld those together, they galvanize. It's real nerd building stuff here, but just noticing some interesting build choices in the beginning that really sparked to some high quality craftsmanship there. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I assumed that was when he was still alive, murdering children, not in the dream, because the glove also exists in the real world in the basement. And did she keep the original fireplace from wherever he was burned alive?
No, that was the boiler for the house.
That was the boiler for the house.
Supposedly.
And she shoved the glove up inside the boiler for the house. Okay. You'd think that as kids want to do, Child Nancy would have probably played in that fire pit at one point and found that glove, because kids are just amazing at finding things, especially things they're not supposed to find.
Yeah, that's true. Then take it to school, be like, look what I found.
Some teacher who burned Freddy alive years ago. Where did you get that? Or do you think they all have their own commemorative Freddy glove?
Well, they pass it around. It was just Nancy's mom's turn to hold on to it.
There we go. That makes sense. It was her year.
It's like the Lombardi Trophy. You have to keep passing it on.
She won the Freddy Fantasy Football League that year. I think we've stumbled into things we don't like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I wanted Nancy to fall asleep, dream of money, and pull money out of her dreams. I was like, come on, do something useful with that talent. Not just grabbing hats and murderers.
That's a good call.
Man, Joe, you're too smart for us. She's too busy trying not to die, but that's a great idea.
Dream of a nice car and be like, all right, wake me up in 5 minutes. I got a new car. I don't know. Would it just appear in her bedroom, though? In her bed?
Right.
That could be dangerous if she grabs the wrong thing.
Which comes to the next thing, like where Freddy is able to exist in the dreams versus in real life is really questionable. He's able to pick up Tina in real life, even though she's still dreaming. She never wakes up from that, even though like a burn to the arm allows Nancy to wake up. But then the biggest murder in this movie that bothers me is Rod's.
The hanging?
Because he gets hanged in real life by a sheet, but is not visibly having like a bad dream or something like that. So like, I have no idea how Freddy was able to interact with that sheet in real life when he doesn't necessarily interact with things in real life. He interacts with the person.
Thing. You don't know when you're in the dream and when you're not.
So he was 2 levels deep. He was dreaming inside a dream. Inception!
Oh, God.
I think that's probably the biggest thing that I wish they would have done more with in this movie was... I know that, like, the intention was you're not supposed to be able to tell when you're in the dream and when you're not, but it's super distracting when plot points hit and you're just like, well, wait a second, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that don't make sense.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of nonsensical stuff happening in this movie. Like the ambulance backing up and having its siren on as it's in a driveway backing up. That's not what the siren's for.
They're not announcing that they're transporting a critical patient to the hospital. They're transporting bits of a sushi buffet.
There's nothing left of him.
Ew.
No, there's not. There's no need to put the sirens on and flash the lights as they're leaving. There's nothing to tell anybody to get out of the way for. They're not saving a man's life tonight.
You're basically wasting electricity at that point.
I don't think they care. The acting is some of the worst acting I have personally ever seen.
Oh, sure. The mom
is horrible, but Nancy, for me, was absolutely atrocious. In a movie surrounded by people delivering terrible, terrible performances, Maybe that's why earlier, like I said, Johnny Depp's feels like a giant like pin holding it all together. I feel like between Johnny Depp and the cop dad, who I didn't catch his name, but the cop dad, they were really good. I feel like everybody else in this entire film either didn't know how to act. I doubt they were acting over the top on purpose, but holy shit, it was bad. Like, I thought I'd seen bad horror movies with bad acting before, but this was... The facial expressions Nancy gives, her reactions to certain things, just everything just made me want to just shut the movie off, because I didn't feel engrossed, I didn't feel like I was in it, I didn't feel like it was realistic, because it was just... I didn't feel that they conveyed any sense of fear or any sense of anything going on other than just blank wooden stares. It was the most distracting I've ever been watching a horror movie.
The blank wooden stares for Nancy makes sense because she's fucking tired.
She is tired, yes, but just...
However, the line readings...
Yeah, that. I just...
A little bit unnatural. I wouldn't be able to do any better. I'm probably not an actor. I probably sound exactly like that in this podcast. I oftentimes when I watch movies and I'm like, man, that line delivery really sucks, I was like, is that what I sound like in real life?
It feels bad saying it because I know I couldn't do any better. It's just having watched bad movies that are bad, not on purpose, having watched bad movies that are intentionally bad because they're so good they're bad, or they're so bad they're good. I don't know how to put that, but there's different variations of this, and this movie, I feel like it was supposed to be good, but the acting was so fucking awful. It really detracted me from this movie.
When your acting in Sharknado is better...
It is, ironically. Like a spoof horror movie that's obviously tongue on the cheek has better acting than... It's just...
This is almost Birdemic level of... line delivery and such. It is distracting and definitely pulls you away from the movie actually being any sort of scary.
Yep.
Except for the priest who delivers one hell of a sermon for Tina. Or no, Rod. Fucking Rod.
Yeah.
Basically the priest just being like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit, fuck him.
And staring right at his parents as he says it.
Mm-hmm.
If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Like, fuck you.
Yep.
I'm so glad we paid you to come out here and tell me how big of a piece of shit my child is.
Some good solace, absolutely. I know this is also going to cause some riffs here, but I hated the soundtrack. I hated everything about the soundtrack. Every song that played, every piece of music that played during this movie, I could not stand it.
I'm with you on that one. I hated the soundtrack.
I disagree. Now, to say it was good is not... I won't say it's good, but boy, did it give me some good 80s feeling.
Yes, it's very 80s, and I love it on its own. Like, if I was to just, like, listen to it randomly, cool, it sounds fun. But, oh my god, it just... I couldn't stand it when it was in the movie, I couldn't stand the scenes it was in, I couldn't stand just... It was bad. I don't have a lot to say. It was just...
I enjoyed it. It was definitely... another thing that just kind of felt weird in the movie. However, it's one of those kind of things like The Running Man, where it's got that weird electronic music that every time I go back to the movie, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm here for. Like, I think it's a common denominator in movies that I enjoy going back and watching. It's just that style of 80s music, electronic, robotic.
See, and I love that. I normally love that. I just feel like it... I feel like for this movie, it just made things so fucked up. Like, it just didn't lend a hand to it, and it just made it... Any tension, any fear, any scariness that I would have derived from this movie was completely evaporated from that soundtrack blasting in. Especially usually with how it went, with, like, you know, Freddy stumbling over furniture and running through a room while it's, you know, just the synthetic kicks in the background coming from an electronic drum set. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know why it irks me so much, but it did not stick its landing for me. I don't know.
For the music, it was after, you know, the mom gets pulled through the door, the Freddy car drives away with the kids, and then the end credit song comes up.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. I forgot about that song.
I lie awake and dread the lonely nights. I'm not alone. It's just like, I just busted up, and it was like anything that could have ever been scary, which it wasn't, is just now like I'm just laughing my ass off at these words in this song.
They kept shouting, "It's just a nightmare" or something like that. It's such a bad song.
They're taking a page from Shakespeare, where if you have a tragedy, you have to have a comedy at the end, so people leave feeling okay.
So crack everybody up in the theater after everyone got scared.
Yeah,
With a song that's so bad it's funny.
I kept thinking of Will Smith's cover or rap.
Oh my god! I was gonna ask you guys if you saw that.
no.
I mean, it's old.
It was considered a lost video. It was considered a lost video because apparently New Line ordered the destruction of all tapes containing that music video. It's a song by Will Smith and who was it? Oh my god! I just watched this yesterday, but it's A Nightmare on My Street or something like that.
Yeah.
It is such a bad
What's the name of
song.
the song? I gotta look it up.
DJ
Jazzy
Jazzy Jeff.
Yep.
A Nightmare on My Street.
Oh, really?
It is such a bad song.
I think I remember when that was released.
It came out in '88, and somebody had a VHS recording of it that they threw online. They somehow recorded it on VHS, and that's like a copy that's still around somehow. And you can tell because it like intersplices between a couple things, and then it keeps going back to the video. So it's a trip, but the the music video is not good. It's not.
I'll have to watch this later.
I get why this movie was revered. It definitely made back $56 million over
Jeez.
its $1 million
Yeah,
budget.
it did significantly more money than I was expecting it would have.
The budget was only $1 million?
1.1 million, yeah.
Dang.
I mean, I can see that. The movie's not extravagant in the least.
Now, we're still not talking about The Incredible Returns of Halloween, which was filmed on a $300,000 budget and made $70 million.
Better movie though. That's a better movie.
I feel tonally it's a better movie.
I disagree.
I like that it's straight-laced, it's more serious in its tone. The acting is really good, except for I would argue, I feel terrible saying this out loud, but I'd argue that Donald Pleasance was probably the only actor in the movie I didn't care for.
He's the detective, right?
Yeah, he's Michael's therapist, the shittiest therapist
Oh.
ever.
Yep.
Instead of trying to help your patient, you're just going around just telling everyone how evil he is and how he needs to die.
If your therapist isn't keeping it secret, you know there's problems.
Yeah. But no, I get the appeal. It's got an amazing premise, and I get why people like Freddy himself. It's really good. It's just, it probably would have hit different if I had watched this as a kid, but I just, as an adult, just wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the problem with this, because coming back to something nostalgic that you hadn't seen from when you were a kid, you miss out on everything that made it special if you had seen it when you were a kid. Same thing with I had never seen Nightmare Before Christmas. Everybody I know saw it. I just never got around to seeing it because my parents didn't have a copy. We didn't rent it or anything. Eventually, I finally watched it in my 20s, and I was like, "Wow, this is a really great movie." But it didn't hit me the same way. It didn't hit me to the point where I had pillows and stuffed animals and stuff like that. Like all my friends, everybody did, or people under their 20s had T-shirts and like identified with Jack Skellington. Or I don't know. It's weird. It's weird stumbling into this because I feel like I'm stumbling into somebody else's nostalgia. I get it. I get why it's important to them. It's just, I wish I hadn't waited so long, I guess.
Well, there's a whole other, 8 other films, maybe?
Yeah. It's like Halloween and Friday the 13th. They had a good one, so then they just beat the shit out of it.
Just saying, you got an opportunity to really beat somebody else's nostalgia into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, returning to this movie, it makes me really think that this is hard aimed at preteens and teens at best for being scary. And for me as an adult, it's kind of boring.
Yes.
'Cause
that's a good way of putting it, Joe.
It's just, it follows tropes and doesn't really do anything special other than it's the creation of a character that I kind of like, of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's about it. Everything else, I mean, like I said, would I suggest someone to watch this? No. I would tell them to find a 5-minute thing on YouTube that summarizes the film, because it's all it is introducing you to Freddy Krueger. That's all
Definitely.
the movie's good for.
I feel like you hit the nail on the head. It's just the best way to describe it is this movie feels like the kind of movie you'd expect a teenager to take his interest to a drive-in theater and watch and snuggle up to, and all the spooky parts. It's got that level of cheese written all over it, where it's just kind of like good date night fodder, I guess.
And you know what? I'm just Wisconsin enough to say I love cheese. And I'm going to go back and watch this movie quite a bit. I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Good.
That is good. Good.
For me, it's good to have on in the background at a Halloween party.
Yeah, I would definitely throw this on in the Halloween rotation.
This is one of the movies that you put on because it fits.
Yeah, I mean, it's Halloween. You toss this on. It's a good movie for the rotation. Would I sit and engrossingly watch it?
No.
No. But does it fill a room? Sure.
And bonus to people who are more uptight about films, I don't remember any swearing.
There's one F-bomb.
So, okay, they have one swear word. No nudity? Really?
There's nudity.
2 scenes of nudity. There's a scene where she gets ripped down in the bath.
Really?
When she gets ripped down in the bathtub, it's full boob nudity, and then
I didn't even see it. So.
Oh no, you could make it out.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that either.
And then there's the flash when she's getting dressed in the closet, when she's got the closet doors open, and
It was her back.
no, there's side boob. There's side boob.
Damn, are you do you have a TV that bends things or something? Because I'm not seeing that.
I don't know. I watched it on HBO Max.
Oh, he was watching on his curved monitor.
Yeah. No, she moves from side to side, and there's side boob on both sides while she's getting dressed, and then the scene where she gets ripped under the tub.
Well, that feels dirty.
Yeah.
She's a child.
Yeah, she's supposed to be 15.
I know, that's what I was just kind of like, wait, what?
I don't know how old she really is, but I'd believe it.
No. None of that, please.
Fucking Wes Craven. I didn't notice either of that.
So yeah, I agree that this is a good movie for the background of a party or not to watch directly. The nostalgia doesn't pull me into wanting to watch it again.
Yeah, I would say I probably won't watch this again. It would probably be something I just throw on a TV and have playing in the background.
I might take some time off work and sit down and watch every single movie in a row without sleeping until I go mad or until I accidentally fall asleep.
Nina Man dies in sleep.
It seems like a good time.
I mean, I did forget the scene of the mom going into the bed in the fog. That was kind of cool. Just as I'm Googling things.
Why did that happen?
I don't know.
That was the second most confusing part of the movie. First part being how Rod died but the second part was like, okay, so Freddy jumps on top of her, burns her alive, and she gets pulled into, what the hell just happened? And that's where okay.
It's a dream.
That's a dream.
It's a dream.
But they used the same lighting effects as Ghostbusters, which is great, I think. I remember that being the feeling of those lighting effects being in Ghostbusters somewhere. Might have to watch that movie sometime to see which one where I was thinking that. Maybe the fridge?
Maybe.
But anyway,
that
was us. Oh shit, I had one for this.
I will say that this movie could possibly do with a reboot. I haven't seen the reboot, so I don't know if they...
I didn't either.
They've rebooted it.
I watched the reboot. It's fine. It's got less heart than this movie.
Oh, really?
This movie has a lot of heart, at least.
Are you gonna Kalima it?
I feel like they could do so much more making Freddy actually scary.
Kalima.
And less goofy.
After this, he starts getting one-liners, which makes him even more goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Well... God, now I have no transition into this because we have a weird area. That was us, not knowing whether or not we were awake or asleep. Rewinding Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, I think it might be important to say at this point that the movie is actually a Nightmare on Elm Street. I believe the original intent was the entire movie is supposed to be a dream.
Thanks for ruining it, Ken.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ken.
You gonna go to the art installation and explain the art to everybody?
Actually,
Isn't that what we're supposed to do in this podcast?
I just feel like I let a lot of people down by saying I didn't like Nightmare on Elm Street. And
No.
I feel like I
fine.
need to take a break and look in a mirror and cry.
No.
man, some people's green tea is some people's white tea. It's fine.
That's true.
I like white tea.
It's delicious. But I do love black tea. I
Black
love
tea.
black tea.
So we invite you to come back in 2 weeks where we will rewind Ghostbusters. Even though it's not
hate
spooky
them.
month anymore,
Get on that hype train for Afterlife.
but we'll do Ghostbusters anyway. So come back in 2 weeks when we rewind again.
We just slashed that movie apart like Freddy's Dreams or something. Almost.